What is up, everybody? I'm Diana from Starker's Corsetry, and welcome to part 6 of our Underbust corset sew-along. In this video, we're going to be correcting our pattern using our mock-up over here. I'm going to talk to you again about a few little common fit issues and how to fix those on your pattern. A few of you have messaged me and said, Diana, what the heck with the seams on the outside? Why in the world did you do that? Don't think I explained it terribly well in the previous video, but there is a method to my madness. I do a few things a little unconventionally. There's a reason that I'm doing something that's a little weird, a little unusual. I have my own bizarre methods of doing stuff, and I am here to show you all of those. I just heard from Nikki from Narrowed Visions in the UK. She makes those beautiful, glossy, colorful busks that I'm sure you've been seeing everywhere. She's still shipping for now. She, like I do, works at home, so she's able to continue keeping up with the orders as they come in. I couldn't wait to show you some of the ones that I have from her. This is the candy red. These are gorgeous. These are really super high quality busks, like I always go on about. I also go through a lot of the black, the gloss black. Look how beautiful this is. So pretty. And purple. I love these ones. These rose gold ones. I think this is gorgeous, and I have a project lined up that I am super excited to use this one in. Another thing I got from her more recently were these colored grommets. Can you see those okay? There's the blue and the red. This first part is really just an addition to what we did in part 5. Right, full disclosure, guys, this is gonna be 2 days of really dry pattern drafting, rulers, numbers, nitpicky measurements, and to the millimeter detail-y stuff. So if you're really not that fussy about your corset pattern fit, which I think everyone should be. However, if you just want to get right into sewing, skip ahead to video number 8 that I'll have in a couple of days, and you can get right into working with your fabric. But if you have any particular fit issues that you want to address, then we're going to take our information from our mock-up and translate that into our pattern in the next couple of episodes. This is also going to help us to determine what lengths of boning to order from Farthingales or Sew Curvy or wherever you get your corset making supplies from. Stick with me, we'll get through this together. What's up with you guys? How's everything going? Honestly, I'm a little bummed out today. My fish died. My betta fish, he was doing great for a really long time. He got sick a couple times and then came back, but yeah, just a decline, like not awesome. And yeah, so RIP Justice Finsberg, you will be missed. So tell me about your pets. Do you have any pets where you are? I'm sure they're very happy to have you guys home. I have 2 absolutely adorable guinea pigs. They are great big heckin' chonkers. This one here is Sherlock. And this over here is Watson. Here's what we're going to need today. We're going to need your mock-up. We're going to need your paper pattern. We're going to need rulers, preferably a straight and a curved ruler. We're going to need colored pens, tape, fabric scissors, and of course, our tea. We've got Candy Cane Crush from David's Tea. It is very Christmassy. I was reading yesterday that a lot of people in smaller towns, and even in Germany, did I read, are putting up their Christmas lights right now, and I thought that's kind of festive. I'd prefer bringing Halloween to everything right now, but that's just me. Anyway, Candy Cane Crush, it is really cool. It's got these little snowflake sugar bits in it. It's got white chocolate bits in it. It's really minty and lovely, and it's a black tea, so it gives us a little bit of energy also. So why the outside seams, you've been asking? I'm seeing a lot of nice, pretty seam on the inside mock-ups. I'm looking at you, Katrina, Julia, and Elizabeth. The reason that we've been doing the outside seams, that again I didn't explain terribly well in the last video, is so that we can easily pinch the seams to see if it needs to be taken in a little bit. Now, if the seams are on the inside, you can still do this, but it's much easier to do this when you can kind of pull the seams as they are. It also helps when you want to just do a quick stitch along one of the seams and throw your corset back on to see if it fits much better now. After we've made our correction lines, we've drawn on the outside, we're gonna stitch it on the outside, and then we're gonna fit it. Now, if our seams are on the inside, we have to transfer those marks to the inside, sew on the inside, and then correct it kind of back and forth, back and forth. This way, it's just all on the outside and it's just easy and fast. The reason also that we do our lines here on the outside is so that when we go to correct our pattern, we know roughly where our corrections are going to be. For instance, over here, the correction that I made on my right hip, I'll know that it begins just about 1.5 centimeters above the high hip line. It is about 4 millimeters into the high hip line, and it's about 1 centimeter into the low hip line. So we're going to be using these lines as our guidelines when we're fixing our pattern. Switch places with this lady here for a moment so I can show you a little bit more what I mean. Now, on my ribs, because I have a very, very wide and low rib cage, I'm not going to use these corrections that I'm doing here on my final pattern because I need a lot of room in my rib cage. But for instance, if I'm fitting my mock-up on this lady here, I would notice that, oh my goodness, look at all of this room that needs to come in. So I would take it and, okay, yeah, I'm using pins. Here's what we do. We first just kind of fold it and pinch it because we've got our seam on the outside, and then we just kind of pin it. We want to be able to pin the seams to simulate what our new seam line is going to be in our finished product. So now that's laying nice and flat against the body, and you can feel it and you can kind of see it a little bit better. You can see that this is going to be our new rib line. And then we move over onto this panel. What we want to avoid is this rippling that's happening in here that has no flesh underneath. If it has flesh underneath, it's an issue that can probably just be solved by a line of our bone casing, but for now, we're going to pinch this and see if that takes care of that ripple. And in this case, it does. If I've pinched it nicely, this panel lays a lot flatter and a lot more solid. The reason that we're making our corset without the boning perfect is because a corset should be able to sit perfectly smoothly on its own without the boning. The boning should be there only to help prop up the corset vertically and not to let it crunch in on itself. But a corset pattern should be able to lay flat against the body if it's properly fit to the client's body. Once you've gone around and corrected all of the bagginess with any parts that are kind of sticking out a little extra, you'll go in with your marker. I'm going to mark this a different color because I don't want to confuse it with my own markings. You're going to go in with a marker and just mark in where it's lying flat on both. And there she goes. But, okay, on both sides. Wow. Okay, there you go. And then over here, oh my goodness. So then we will just draw in our new seams, and it's going to be a little bumpy, but we're going to correct that with our markers in a minute. That's what you do if you have too much space there. And often you might see this at the upper hip at the back if you've got a little extra booty up at the top there. And where else you might see this is right above the high hip. Like I showed you yesterday with what happens if you need more room and we tore that wide open, we're just gonna get a little scrap of fabric and just stick it underneath. Let's pretend on this one, we need a lot more room. So if your corset pattern isn't giving you, you may see this in your hips, especially your side hip here. If you need a lot more room, here's how we fix that problem now. You put a little bit of fabric underneath and you pin one side to your original seam allowance. And once we've pinned that on both sides, you can see where that's going to come to. Try it on again and see if that helps to fit over the rib cage or the high hip or wherever you've needed to expand it a little bit better. Once you've done that and have exactly the right smooth fit, nothing's puckering, nothing's going anywhere that it shouldn't, we're going to mark in where our new seam line is going to be. I'm going to move you a lot closer so I can show you what we're going to do here. Now, our new seam line is realistically going to be right in the center of this rib cage here, or this extension that we've just added. So we're going to just draw it all the way down, and we're going to stick to one side for now, because right here it fits okay. Right here we've added the extension. So we're going to gently curve this line up here so that this is our new seam line. I'm also going to show you how to fix this little diagonal guy here. Now this happens because a hip bone is pushing up. Now if you think about something pushing up under here, if it's a little too high, you're going to get that crease that happens this way, because the hip bone's pushing higher than your pattern wants it to go. So if we raise the hip bone, then it's going to keep this nice and smooth. I'm going to show you how to do that right now also. Now that we've gathered all of this information from our mock-up, what do we do with it? Here's what we're going to do. Take our pins out, and we're going to look at the markings that we made while it was on your Judy or on your body. As you can see, they're a little bit scribbly, a little bit weird. So we're going to just true them up as best we can. Again, these green lines are not the lines that I'm going to be using for my particular fit. My fit lines are the pink ones here. But for now, we're just going to be looking at the green lines that we made here. It's probably going to be a curved line because, you know, let's face it, the lines on the body are curved lines. So we want to take a curved ruler, and starting where our marking starts from, make it a nice smooth line. And then we go to our next piece, and this looks like it curves out from the waist and extends right through to the seam allowance at the top. We've made those corrections. We're going to correct our seam allowance, and this is also how we get the marking onto the other side. We draw in our seam allowance here to here, and then we go to our other side like that. Not quite like that, but like this sort of. Okay. Now our markings aren't on our opposite sides, but we do have our seam allowance. You can take your fabric scissors or your paper scissors, whichever you like, and just correct that seam allowance. And now your other side should also be corrected properly in that case too. I'll show you again on this side here, on this panel. Okay. And your seam allowance, you might just need to redraw it in. We'll be going from out here, and this is why I love these rulers here, because you can see right through them. What we want to do is create our new seam allowance. And this effectively transfers our line over to the other side. That's how to correct for when you needed to make an area smaller. We're also going to reshape the lines that we used to expand some of our corset panels, like this one here. We're going to just unpin one of the sides and redraw the line with a nice curved ruler, just to make it really smooth, like that. Here's the example of what I'm gonna have to do for my particular corset pattern. Over here, I need to bring this line in quite a bit on my hip, because my hips are a little narrower at the bottom. And I just want to take that in a little bit like that. Now, here's how we deal with this particular issue. Now, what this means, as I mentioned, is our hip bone is higher than where this curve is here. So our hip wants it to be a little higher. So we're going to just sketch in the hip bone coming a little higher here, because I do know that on my right side, my hip bone is higher. There we go, like that. So it really is just vertical of where our high hip was anyway. So instead of it meeting here where our original seam was, it's just up a little bit higher like that. This is going to give our hip bone enough room to sit without pushing the fabric upward. Thanks for sticking with me through video number 6, and we're going to get into how to translate our corrections from our fabric mock-up onto our paper patterns. Thanks for joining me. Bye. Oh, he peed. Oh, buddy. Okay.